Hi, this is Charles Cab from BGG, and with me is Patrick Pence, and we're going to give you a demonstration on how to use the Combat Commander Pacific module. The web page that I pulled up to install the program that lets you play this game is called Vassal, and you just go to vassalengine.com, you click on download, and you download the operating system or the program for your operating system and install this program. And when you do, the program will look something like this. Except more than likely it'll be blank and it won't have all the games listed in here. You go to the modules section here or go to GMT website and you can download the Combat Commander Pacific module itself, and it kind of opens like Microsoft Word. It is a document per se, and the program opens up that file and you'll see a game in front of you like this. So when it first opens up, it asks you if you want to do a game offline, if you want to play solitaire, or if you want to play online with someone. You pick the online option here. And this is how the Vassal module looks just for the main window and the beginning part of the game. To pick a scenario, you go under File and select a scenario. And then you choose which side you want to play on. I will choose the Japanese. And once that's all set up on the screen here, you'll see it load up here. Patrick can right-click on me and select Sync, and he will synchronize and see the exact same screen that I'm seeing. So Patrick, go ahead and synchronize. Okay, as Patrick just pointed out, I forgot to create a room. I went to a new game here and typed in a name, and now we are both in this room here. And Patrick right-clicked on me and selected Synchronize, and he is seeing my screen at the same time as me. Awesome.
Okay, what we see here is a very, very fine example of some excellent design for Vassal modules. My hat is off to the designer. What he's done here is not only brought all of the essential information that you use for face-to-face gaming of Combat Commander, but he's also enabled this with a lot of tools and sort of wizards to walk you through many of the processes that you'll use for actually playing the game online. Probably what we want to do tonight is just take a sort of a walking tour of what we will see when we start up a game of Combat Commander. In this particular case, we'll use the Grassy Knoll scenario, and I'll sort of go through some of the different things that you see, and then as we set things up, and Charles and I will play through a couple of rounds, then you can see some of the functionality of the different tools. So, Charles, feel free to jump in anytime you have any questions or anything like that. I'll just start here in the kind of the upper left, and we can see the order of battle display, currently showing that the Japanese have their posture set to defense, whereas the Marines are set to attack. And you can see that those tools are cross-referenced on the little matrix there, showing how many orders down the left-hand side the individuals get to use or get to play. You can see that that's also shown here for the Axis orders and the Allied orders there under the main time track. You can also see that the corresponding elite line in green demonstrates what will happen when you have to replace a squad with a line unit or with a team. That will indicate whether they're going to be a green team or a line team or an elite team.
Okay, that sounds good.
immediately to the right of that, you can see that there's the year indicator, 1945 for this scenario, and there's a little indicator there for the Allied turn. And what happens is there's a tool along the toolbar at the top, which we'll talk about in a moment, that you can advance. When you complete an order or you complete the full turn, it will actually toggle that back and forth as a little indicator for the Axis turn or the Allied turn. Occasionally, when you're playing by email, that can sort of get out of sync, but that's easy enough to fix if you do. In this scenario, you see the time track across the top. We start with point number 2 on the time track, and the sudden death is set to 7. What that means is we have essentially the Americans have 6 turns to move to complete their objectives, whatever they may be. You can see that units are also placed on the time track, so as that advances forward, you get to add reinforcements. In this case, these are guerrillas that will allow you to kind of come in and flank from the edges of the map, and they have some Thompson submachine guns there. Continuing across the right, you can see that the Japanese are set to 11 victory points currently. They have an advantage. One of the objectives typically is worth, in this case, I think 10 victory points, so just by them holding it by default at the beginning, they have the 11 victory points already. So they've got a bit of a head start, and the Marines have a little bit of work ahead of them to try to get to those victory spots and get some points either through eliminating units or capturing victory spots before the time runs out. So it's a little bit of a race against time. Just moving down kind of the right side there, I'll just show you some of the pertinent stuff. You can see the revives left, that will come into play. You'll see that's automatically generated when you play a revive card from your hand or a revive folder in order to improve, if you've got broken units, you can rally them, or you can remove suppression markers. Coming down from there, probably the tools that you'll use most often are the attack and defense values. This is completely automated, so as you play cards from the areas just below where you see events and dice rolls and the random hexes, all of that will help generate information that will calculate the totals for you as you're going into these different battles. So very, very nice. The automation is just top-notch. Takes a little getting used to, and that's kind of why we're here tonight. But once you get used to this, either playing face-to-face or play by email, you're going to find it's really streamlines a lot of the activities you do. You can see the events, the die roll, and the random hexes there on the right-hand side. Those are actually slots for the cards. All of the card images are in this module, so as you press either the Axis or the Allied draw button or the roll button, those will actually generate a card draw. I'll do one example here. So I'm the Allied, so I'd press Allied roll. It will actually generate the information there. So in a fire order would be the card if I were using this from my hand. In this case, it's the die roll, so we've got the 1 and the 3 down at the bottom. You can see each of the cards. We're assuming we have some familiarity with Combat Commander already, but in this case, you've got the order at the top, whatever action is available to you if you're playing this from your hand, and then random events. And in this situation here, if I were to click this Allied draw on the events corresponding table, it would generate not only the information about the event from the card image, but it puts it in the log up near the top of the screen too. So you always have a constant running log for play by email just to check your work. So you can you always have a narrative of what's going on. So in this case, the U.S. has earned air support from an event that it's played. Any questions so far, Charles, or are you still good to go?
Oh, I'm still good. We could talk about the objective markers and how those work out at the bottom.
Sure. In this scenario, by default, the Japanese control all of the markers, all of the objective spots on the map. So all of these are toggleable tools. So if you right-click on any of these, right-click functionality is present just about everywhere on the actual unit markers and the tools on the screen itself. Most of these, if you just click them, it will do some activity. It will toggle the setting, in this case, for between Japanese control or Allied control, and it changes the little image on the map screen itself. And in most cases, it will auto-generate to change the victory point totals for you.
Okay, very good.
Down at the bottom, we've got the smoke pile and the objective draw pile. So as I draw these out into, Charles can draw one out as the Japanese or to the open. You can see that the smokes will automatically randomly draw a smoke hindrance wherever you place it on the map. And the objectives can be placed out here in the open to generate particular victory points that may come up through the game, either through random events or the starting point. One of the great things about this module, aside from the mini tools that I was talking about, is if you pull an open objective, it will detect whether certain objectives are already under one particular control or not, and it will automatically change the victory point totals for you. So that's a pretty neat effect. If they're secret objectives, they are not changed. It's unknown until the very end when you actually reveal those objectives, and then it will shift the victory point totals for you there in the end. On the left-hand side, you can see there's two spots for the orders and the actions. So as you play orders from your hand, as you go through the sequence, you right-click, open up the card, the USA or the Japanese card hand at the top. You'll have a particular card in your hand, and at any time you can right-click that and play it for an order, play it for an action, or discard it if you need to. As soon as you click the appropriate command, it will place it into either the orders or the advanced box, and also add the notation to the narrative in the box above. So very handy to keep track, especially if you actually do something incorrectly. As you can see here, Charles has pressed the undo button. So it's a good way to kind of toggle that between either played or unplayed or discard right from your hand. Across the bottom of your hand there, it shows you the capacity, so depending on what your posture is for a particular scenario, in this case the Japanese are the defenders, so they'll get 4 cards. So you can see that's a nice little handy aid to know how many cards you can draw up to each turn. And really, one of the great things about all of this, it's a little daunting for some folks to jump right into these Vassal modules, but this one is actually, if you're willing to invest a little bit of time and play along with somebody, you can really pick things up very quickly. I've been using this for play by email for a few months now, and been very pleased with it because you're always discovering something new, but it's actually very rewarding because there are some neat surprises in here. There's sound effects and things like that. So if you've got your sound card on, your speakers turned on, you can actually hear when an event is triggered or when a sniper appears. It actually adds a lot of flavor to the game.
Yep, I totally agree. This and Twilight Struggle are two of my favorite modules, and this one is a little more, it's nicer in the flair bit as far as having the sound effects and things like that.
And as we all know, it's all about the flair.
Absolutely.
And one little box down in the lower right that I neglected to mention was the infiltration track. There are certain cards from the Japanese hand that allow them to place units either into the infiltration boxes, A, B, or C, and also from there onto the map. So it's a good way for them to replenish units back and forth through the map through the use of sighting markers. So it adds a little bit of hidden information from the Japanese and a little bit of surprise tactics that are really keep the U.S. forces or the Commonwealth forces on their toes.
and also the hindrances and covers, but I figured we'd cover that when we got into gameplay. But you can also adjust your attack values and your defensive values by clicking on these hindrance modifiers. And just clicking on those automatically adds it to your attack value.
Yeah, again, that's one of those little things that you know, it's almost wizard-driven. It's very user-friendly. So if you take the time and go through this as you're learning and say, okay, I'm playing this order, and then now I'm doing a die roll, and these are my hindrances, you can really add all the pieces, and then it will do a lot of the heavy lifting for you.
Yep, very nice way to get adjusted to the game too.
Right across the top, just kind of bring it back to where we're going to be starting here at this point, is the main toolbar. You can see you've got your parts. Looks like a little chit with the 4-5 on it. That's where you have all of the U.S., Japanese, and Commonwealth forces that you can pull out. So as units are added through reinforcement events or just as needed, you know, a lot of replacement of information, those units can be just pulled right out of there. So that's your main toolbox or counterbox. Moving on to that, you can open the decks, and the decks just show you all of the current counts. That's very important. So, as you know, if you've played Combat Commander before, not only are the time triggers located on the cards, but as you deplete the decks, that advances the time marker as well. So this is a good heads-up opportunity for you to look and see how many cards your opponent still has. Plus, this is where you actually right-click on the discard pile to replace the cards back into the main deck, and it's all randomized as you draw them out, so they're constantly being shuffled. And you can see right below that is the recon or the reconnoiter. So when you play that, it will automatically draw a card out, and you can see, you know, going ahead with your option of either pulling it into your hand, putting it back on top of the deck, or discarding it. It's all handled right through that little recon draw box.
Very nice. I never noticed that before.
From there, you can see the two opponent decks. So this is where you'll actually see your card hand, Japan, Commonwealth, USA, and immediately to the right of that is the boneyard, the dead pile. And this is important in the Pacific, mostly for the United States or the Commonwealth forces, because as we know, the Japanese never surrender. So their surrender markers is never a factor for their casualties, but the United States will automatically move that scenario by scenario as needed to whatever. In this case, it's 8 casualties. If you hit that point, then the United States will automatically lose this scenario. As with most other Vassal modules, you have some standard tools, mostly like the notes, the status, and the help are pretty common. And more of them are mostly, they're pretty well developed, but I've seen some that are better developed than others. And the big three for this one, obviously the staging is going to be the main window where all of the counters you'll use for this particular scenario are already prepared for you. So unlike face-to-face where I'm constantly digging through my little Plano boxes trying to find you know, Lieutenant DeMoss or Lieutenant Danichi in that little pile of the slot, this is already prepared for me, so I just have to take them from here and drag them out from that, and so it makes setup very, very quick and easy. And the basic mechanic here is, as you're playing along, you will play a card for your hand as an order, or you'll complete the order, and then you can see there's a big orange button here called End Order, and that's the way that when you click that, it automatically places red borders around the units that have already been activated, so as a reminder they cannot be activated again. Plus it clears away and discards all of the cards that will accumulate either through dice rolls or random events, things like that. So it's kind of a one-stop button to do all the cleanup one order at a time. Plus it will also decrease the number of orders there in your countdown, so we can see that the axis would still have, in this case, it's reset here at 2 and 3, but it will automatically decrease the orders as you actually removes all the red borders, resets everything back to the next player, and then toggles it over to the opponent's side. In this case, the Axis turn. So the allies, just go back. I go, you go, and that's really pretty much it. It's very, very user friendly.
And just as a note, on the end turn, it takes about 10 or 15 seconds for the board to reset because it does go through a lot of calculations.
Charles is exactly right. You'll notice that depending on how much RAM you have on your particular system, mine is not too bad, but I believe I've got like a gig of RAM. So Vassal, being a Java application, it can be kind of computation heavy. So some people notice that end turn is very, very quick. I think when I do it, I get 1 or 2 seconds. But sometimes if you have a lot of movement and a lot of change between the states of the board, then it may take up to 5 or 10 seconds. If you're playing live, that's really a problem, but if you're doing it by email, it's not a big deal. So I guess we're probably about ready to get started. Do you have any questions before we plunge into this?